Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our amazing podcast in which we discuss horror films from all different decades and all different subgenres. That's what we do here, and that's what we love to do. And I take an individual film and I invite a guest to kind of sit back, relax, have a conversation. We kind of sometimes we critique and analyze, and other times we just like to shoot the shit about the movie, depending on the quality of that movie. That being said, we always like to do films that no one else is doing, and I say that as a precursor for today's episode because I don't know of anyone else who has done the film that we are doing today, but we are doing it because we are celebrating St. Patrick's Day in style by talking about the movie Leprechaun in the Hood from the year 2000. And to talk with me about this film, I have the amazing Dave Watkins, who has been steady talking with me about this franchise for the last few years. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining me on this conversation of this sequel in the franchise.
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day, and this is the fifth in the franchise.
Yes, the fifth in the franchise, and the franchise is still has Warwick Davis as the amazing Leprechaun. So that's one of the great things about the movie. Since this is or was a straight to DVD sequel in 2000, I do have to ask whether or not you saw it when it was originally released, or did you see it later on?
I saw it later on. Really, with this one, this watch is the first time I've watched the movie all the way through. So I tried to watch it one time on St. Patrick's Day one year, and there's just too much stuff going on, and I misunderstood it. But upon watching it this time, I got it better. I don't know what I was thinking the first time, but it was like when I've seen Back to the Hood a few times, but in the Hood for some reason I couldn't get into it the first time I tried to watch it. Now this one also has Ice-T in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the few. I think it's the only Leprechaun film that has other than Warwick Davis's name before the opening title is Warwick Davis, Ice-T before Leprechaun in the Hood. So it's kind of unique for this particular movie.
Yeah, and it's the fifth one in the franchise, and so you kind of wonder what made him want to be in this film to begin with. But hey, when you're watching the movie, you can see he's just having fun being in this low budget horror film. So
Right, yeah. The director's talking about it a little bit. He didn't give an answer to that per se, but he did say that Ice-T was really into it and he was taking it serious. He also was in that film Tank Girl. It's probably around the same
yes.
time as this, but Tank Girl obviously had a lot larger budget than this film. But that's a pretty cool makeup in Tank Girl.
Yes, where he's one of the kangaroo characters.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that movie very well. I know a lot of people don't remember it well, but it has become a huge cult film since its original release, in which it did not do well at the box office.
Yeah, they just released it, the 4K at Vinegar Syndrome, and it looks really good. So it's a cool release. But Ice-T in this one, he also apparently likes horror films, and that was another draw to it. This is the only horror film I think he's ever been in, but that was another reason why he probably wanted to do it, because he likes horror films and he hadn't been in one. He's like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. He's really funny in this film. I really like his character. I wish, even though he's second bill, I wish he was in it more, because he's kind of a big heavy in it, and he kind of comes in and out throughout.
He does, but I think I really liked him in this film because he does seem to have, you know what? Before rewatching this movie for the podcast, I'd only ever seen this movie once, and I did not watch this movie when it originally came out because I kind of gave up on the franchise after the fourth one. And then I kind of heard about this one, and then Back to the Hood, and then I think the next one after that was Origins came out.
No. Well, oh yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry.
Origins came out. Yeah. I saw that one, and I decided to go back and watch these two that I had missed, and I bought them on a box set. So I got them on the box set, and I said, okay, yeah, I'll watch them. The box set was cheap. It's all good. And I've always liked Ice-T, but for some reason in 2000, I was kind of drifting away from these straight to DVD flicks and the multitude of sequels that were being produced. I even stopped watching the longest running ridiculous franchise in film history, which is the Children of the Corn franchise, because those films just kept getting ridiculous the more they made.
It's interesting though you mentioned that, not Children of the Corn, but the longest running franchise. The director of this film directed another film called Witchcraft.
Yeah.
And
Oh God,
that
I forgot about
movie
that one.
has that one has a ridiculous amount of sequels. I never even I was like looking them up. I was like, there are so many of them. It's like
Yes, I only saw the first Witchcraft a long time ago. I
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
delved into all the other ones they've done. So yes.
Apparently they get either they talk about it a little bit on the director's commentary, and they get like a lot worse as they go on because the budget gets worse. I think they were shooting them on beta tape eventually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so the budget was like so low. It was like something we could have been shooting ourselves, you know.
Yeah, I only saw the first one. I there Most of those are on Tubi, and one day I might get around to them. And for everyone listening to our podcast, maybe one day we'll get around to them on our show, but you might have to wait a while for that one.
Yeah, sure everyone's going to be don't hold your breath too much.
But the thing is, I'm not sure how many people actually want to hear about the Leprechaun franchise, but we're having a lot of fun talk about these each St. Patrick's Day each year.
Yeah.
This is the third year we're doing this now, so
I kind of feel like there's probably a lot of fans for this one. This is a very good fit for the Leprechaun to be in the hood. I think it's a really good fit for it, and it adds a lot of comedy. I think the first scene of this film that takes place in the 70s is gold. That part is so awesome. And
yeah.
Ice-T in this friggin' big afro wig and these big like platform boots and bell bottoms, you know.
No, and it's not just him; it's his partner in crime too.
Yeah.
Slug with his afro and the pick that he eventually gets killed with.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
I had forgotten this movie. I'd seen it once. I didn't remember it, and when I was rewatching it, I was like, "Oh my God, this shit's hilarious!"
Yeah.
Um,
No, that part in the 70s, that opening sequence, that's the best part of the film. But that is so awesome. It's
well, yes. I don't know. I still like the little leprechaun rap at the end, but yes, I can see you say that.
yeah. But
It's fun.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
you see Ice-T in this like 70s outfit. It's like gold. It's just fun to watch this
No.
movie.
I wish
And
they'd done the whole thing in the 70s. That would have been
uh,
awesome.
you know what? That would have been really cool to see
Yeah.
a Leprechaun movie in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been amazing just to see the costumes of all the people and the Leprechaun going through everything.
Yeah, yeah. But it's weird though. So obviously part four is in space. And
mm,
part three, like we talked about this before, none of these follow continuity, but this
no,
one kind of doesn't really follow continuity, but it is weird because the third one is the one where they put the medallion around his neck and turn him into a statue. And that's kind of
yes.
how that one goes. They bring that back for this one, even though the timeline isn't right. It's clearly a different leprechaun, or they just completely ignored continuity again. But they did bring that back. I think in the
Yeah.
second one, he's brought back out of the well from the end of the first one. But here he's got that. It looks very similar to the one in the third movie, the statue, where he has the gold medallion around his neck again.
So I thought that as well. I just didn't have time to go back and look and verify that. But I thought that statue looked the exact same as the one in that movie too. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were like trying to save on budget by just
Yeah.
reusing the statues.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably what it was. Even though they had to make the second statue because the first statue is probably the one from the third movie, but then the second because in that sequence they take the thing around his neck, but it ends up back around his neck and he's in a different position. So they actually had to make that second statue.
Mm.
The director said that on the commentaries. But he didn't actually say that they took the first one. Now, the director's commentary is interesting because there is a lot of not talking about the movie sort of commentary on the director's commentary, but I did get a lot of good information about it as well, even though they weren't quite so focused. They got a lot off track. At one point they were talking about the witchcraft movies for a long time. So
Well, I do want to point out this was an odd odd urban horror film at the time. Because the thing is, urban horror films were becoming popular on straight to video. That's there's no denying that, which is probably why they decided to do this film as that type of subgenre. But what this one does, and even though it does borrow like the cliche of using rap artists or rap singers, these guys, their whole thing is not doing gangster rap. They want to do rap that's actually good rap, that's wholesome rap, that's like that's not what you would normally see in the film at this time. You would see everyone trying to be the best gangster rap.
Right.
But you
It's
get
fun. It's funny too. Just the idea
it's funny.
that's funny, and then the pushback against it is.
Yeah, I mean, Ice-T's what's his character's name?
Mac Daddy. Oh,
Mac Daddy.
Now this last name though is Onassis, but it's spelled like Onasssas, like on asses.
Oh Jesus! Of course you would notice that. I didn't write that down, so I didn't notice how it was spelled.
Yeah,
I just wrote down Mac Daddy.
Mac
Because,
Daddy, or call him either Matt Daddy or call him Ice T. It's
yeah, but he's like the hardcore rapper. He wants gangster rap. He wants all the shit that gangster rap represents at that time, and his whole spiel to these three kids, Postmaster, Stray Bullet, and Butch. When he talks to them, because they come into his office thinking that Mac Daddy can actually give them a lift up in the industry, and
yeah, I got that dialogue written.
Oh, you did get it?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It's when I wrote it.
Yeah.
It's how it goes. It's sitting in his office. They brought him the tape, and they're like, he's like Mac. So Matt Daddy takes the tape, and he's like, this ain't bad, but we're gonna have to change some things. And they're like, okay, what is it? And he's like this bullshit. And he takes the tape and he just smashes it on the table. He's like, I ain't with all that save the fucking hood bullshit. Treat your girl right. That shit's whack, all right? This label, we rap about Uzis. Blowing motherfuckers' heads off. Smack your bitch up. Shoot your homeboy in the face. That type of shit. And then so there, that's pretty much what he says, and I was cracking up. That's great.
No, I was cracking up too, dude.
Yeah,
I could guarantee you when I first saw this movie, I did not have fun watching this movie, because I was so far removed from the fourth one. I just kind of watched it. Like I said, I watched it after Origins, which is a dead serious horror film, and so I wasn't in the mood for this, which is why I never went back to watching this movie. But rewatching it for this. Some of this shit is just fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be hilarious. Like it's
It's comedy horror.
Yeah. It's part of the charm of the Leprechaun franchise is that these films are meant to be entertaining and fun. They're not meant to be a whole lot more, even though this one tries to do something a little different by creating characters that actually have a goal. And that's part of their Achilles heel is like they want to be famous by being these wholesome rappers, but they know that that's not what makes money. Like, before we're not even talking about the Leprechaun, it's himself in the film just yet. But the ideal that these characters at one time are practicing outside where anyone can hear them, and the neighbors are telling them to shut this shit off. Because it's so bad,
I think they're like those three guys. They have pretty good chemistry together. Like the three main dudes. There was a Postmaster P and Stray Bullet and Butch. It's a pretty good. Like Postmaster P is more wholesome. Stray Bullet is he could kind of go either way, and then Butch is kind of the comic relief of the three. So, but it makes a pretty good team in general. They do make some really bad decisions as it goes on, but I do like their chemistry.
Well, yeah, because I like the Butch when I rewatched it. I'd forgotten that he was like the explosives expert. Yeah. So he gets to show off his skills a couple times in the movie, and I forget. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. And of course, Postmaster P isn't willing to sell out. That whole idea of selling out plays into this the themes of this movie really well. And then of course. Stray Bullet kind of represents the middle ground. Like he wants to do the right thing, but if he has to do the wrong thing to get to the right thing, he's willing to pay that price. He's willing to sacrifice for that.
Yeah.
So
And it's really, and it's really a hard decision to make when you're sitting there in front of a someone who could fund your group,
mhm.
and he's like, you guys need to change, the way you're talking about it, more wholesome, like you need to change that to something that will make money. And then, he like Stray Bullets, like this is an opportunity, even though they will have to sell out in their point of view, but
Mhm.
that's a hard call though.
Well, that's a great. Well, that works into the whole theme about greed. When we first see it, the opening back in when they're the opening in the 70s, I say IT, Mac Daddy and his little guy, Slug, are literally with a treasure map, searching for gold
Yeah,
in
they're
the
gonna
bowels of the
Subway. Yeah.
city.
What's now? This is something we didn't talk about yet in that opening scene. This is like my favorite part, probably, but it's like a slapstick part. After
Yeah,
Slug gets killed with that ice pick to the neck, Ice-T has a gun and he shoots the Leprechaun with it. I'm sorry, he goes to shoot Leprechaun, but the Leprechaun turns the gun red and it's hot, so he drops it. And then Ice-T reaches into his afro and pulls out a switchblade. Yeah. And then the Leprechaun's like, "Oh my, oh," like he's acts like he's scared, but then he just like uses his telekinesis to knock it out of his hand. And then, which Leprechaun does seem to have different powers in this one. Now, he's always has the telekinesis, but he does seem like he can't teleport. I don't think he ever teleports in this one, which I think,
I,
yeah, I think teleporting makes him too strong anyway. Because
yeah.
in the fourth one, he could teleport anywhere, and so you're just screwed. But he doesn't use it. But here, I think he's limited. He's got these powers, but I don't think he has all of them that he usually has.
Mm.
And then the third thing that he does, which almost turns into an airplane spoof sort of situation. Mac Daddy reaches into his afro again and pulls out this baseball bat out of his wig. And then
The thing
yeah,
that wouldn't fit into his afro,
yeah.
mini baseball bat. Yes.
So it's hilarious, but it almost takes it to a spoof territory. But it's still like that's really the only time that happens. But it's still hilarious. And then he like fights him and he knocks him down with his power again. And then Ice-T or Mac Daddy sees a pressure relief valve on the floor. He distracts the Leprechaun with it, causes the necklace to go up in the air and then land back around his neck. So they
Yep.
really lucked out with it.
That seems to happen a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, he when we see Mac Daddy again, when the three boys go to see him in his office, the leprechauns he still keeps the leprechaun around.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's in a glass case.
through the glass case.
Yeah.
And this is a much different film because the leprechaun's not really after his gold in this movie. He's
Yeah.
after the little magic flute that Ice-T stole when they first encountered each other in the 70s era. At the time when he does it, we're not sure what the powers of that flute is until later, but that is the object that the leprechaun is after in this film and not so much his pot of gold. We could only assume that all the gold that we saw in that opening sequence is what Mac Daddy used to power and give him money for his empire.
Well, the gold is actually in his office
Is
because
it?
when they come in there to rob his office, which is a really bad move on their part, but they come in to rob his office later. The gold's in there. They're stealing some of it. But he's not that.
Oh.
Yeah, they got like gold necklaces and they open a drawer and it's all in his office. That's where he's been keeping all the stuff. I think he stole from the
Yes,
Leprechaun. But the thing is, he doesn't need the gold because he's got the flute. Because the flute's enough that to make money off of it. He doesn't even really need the gold because of the flute.
huh.
Even when he knows about the flute already, because when they come in to the subway, he takes the flute and he's like, "This is all I need." He tells Slug he can have the rest of the gold. He doesn't even care about it.
He does say that, but that really doesn't make any sense at all, anyways, to be honest with you, because they didn't know they were going to find a leprechaun in there for one.
Well, I think he did. I mean, I think that they had the map. They had a treasure map. He knew about the flute, and
You think he knew about the
yeah,
flute?
I mean, this is a really goofy, ridiculous movie. That's, but I would think from I would think he knew about it just because, or either he was drawn to it in a supernatural type of way because he sees the flute, he has the treasure map, he sees the flute, and he's like, "This is all I need." And so he didn't. I mean, it really doesn't matter because if you have that flute and the power that it has, you don't need the gold because you can make as much money, more money than what you could ever need.
No, no, you're right about that. I just don't. I think for story wise, I don't think they ever established that they just had it's a gold map to some place, but we're not told what's they're looking for. It's just gold.
Well, maybe yeah. Well, maybe if he didn't know, once he sees the flute, it like calls to him in a way that he realizes that he doesn't need the rest of it.
That I would believe more because the flute does the same thing with Postmaster P when he picks up the flute. It kind of calls to him, it makes him want to play it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know why until after he plays it. I can see that. But then again, this is a Leprechaun movie, so logic doesn't always make sense in here anyways. We discussed that in part 4.
Well, yeah, it's definitely was a lot of like writing on the fly with this one from what they're saying. So a lot of this stuff is very baffling, some of the decisions, especially in the later part of the film. I really like the first half of this film a lot. It kind of gets it kind of does some really odd stuff in the second half, which we'll talk about when we get there. But before this happened, it shows these three guys go to different pawn shops trying to pawn this guitar. After they the first thing that this is like a lot of times in these movies like this, with these kind of rap movies, which they do a pretty good job when they're rapping. I mean, I thought that for what they were doing, because they had very little time to prepare for the rap songs, and they're not bad. But they're doing an audition, and everything breaks down. I think they accidentally blow up a speaker, and so they have to go sell their guitar. And they trying to act like it's Jimi Hendrix's guitar, and it was like a year. It was made a year after he died, and the pawn shop owners keep catching on to that.
Yeah.
The first pawn shop owner is
Jackie.
Was his name Jackie?
Jackie.
But the actor, I'm trying to find his name. Dan Martin played Andy in that movie Sleepwalkers. He was like the cop, Andy. That he had the cat. So I knew I recognized him, and I was like, what? Then I figured out by looking it up, but I didn't say But he's funny in Sleepwalkers. He's funny in this too. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but he gets an okay amount for a supporting character.
Yeah. Well, this scene we're talking about now, they kind of introduced him and who he is. And of course, later on when we see him, we realize he has a bigger connection to some of the other characters. But it's all like just added bonus information. Because he was seeing Stray Bullet's mother at one point and stuff like that. Those subtle things come out in the dialogue, which you wouldn't expect really from this type of movie. But they do kind of have all these little connections. It's kind of like the same with Chow, who is the second person pawn shop they try to take the guitar to. Obviously, they know Chow really well, and Chow isn't going to take their shit either, which is hilarious to me.
Right, yeah. And then it's funny because they have these kind of they want to rap good and talk about don't slap your bitch or whatever, and then but they want but they want to be good with that, but then they're trying to pull these scams. Like they're trying to sell this guitar that's not even legit. They're trying to pull scams. And then even worse, after Mac Daddy, they go to Mac Daddy and he offers them like an awesome deal, but then they're like, we don't want to sell out. And so instead of selling out, they decide they want to rob him. They want to rob Mac Daddy, go back when he's not there and steal the medallion from the leprechaun's neck. And then, of course, Postmaster P kind of pushes back on this, but he does show up right when they're about to leave.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny the way that like that's okay to go rob somebody, but it's not okay. They call it like Robin Hood. They're going to rob.
Yes.
Robin in the Hood.
but the thing is, that's what makes these three characters interesting, because it is Stray Bullet that has to talk both Butch and Master P that this is our solution, because the three of them need to get to that competition, win the competition, so they can get the means to go to Vegas to win the big competition to prove to everyone that they are legit. and they can make enough money to make them look legit. That's their whole goal, but they're willing to sacrifice to get to that goal. And unfortunately, when they go to try and rob Mac Daddy, it
Yeah.
doesn't go as planned for them.
Right. And it's kind of, this is a really bad idea for Mac Daddy to even keep this leprechaun in the room. That thing should be in a safe somewhere where nobody can get to it. We wouldn't have a movie if that was the case.
Well, the thing is, at that point, I believe that no one. Okay, Mac Daddy believes that he's completely untouchable. He's a real gangster who just also has a business where he controls most of the rap coming out of that neighborhood. And so he doesn't believe that anyone would be dumb enough to go against him. Now, his hubris is he could keep the leprechaun around because he knows everything about the leprechaun, and he wants to keep his enemy close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. That does make sense. And the glass is pretty strong because apparently they have to use explosives to open it. It's funny they even know that they need to bring explosives to open it.
Yeah, because they were only there for a little bit of time. So yes.
Yeah, and it's like that glass. There's no way we're breaking that glass. We've got to bring explosives.
Oh Jesus. Which makes for a much interesting film because instead of just having everyone have guns and everything like that, you have Butch using explosives. And the funny thing is, these guys aren't gangsters. They haven't gone to prison. They don't know how to use the guns that they have, although they know where to get guns, and where people hide them, as you can see later on in the film when the Reverend has his gun hidden, and they all know where his gun is hidden.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But they're not good shots by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like say yes, they get the guns when they break into the office, and what it goes sideways because Mac Daddy returns to the office while they're trying to rob it. And right when he walks in the door, Postmaster Pete picks up the gun and he's pointing it at him. He walks in the door, and then Butch blows up the leprechaun's his cage. And right when that happens, Postmaster Pete accidentally shoots Ice-T or Mac Daddy. And it's weird when that happened. I was like, shit, did he kill him? Because he actually shoots him right in the chest and he falls down. It looks like he's dead at that point.
Yeah.
But then the leprechaun comes out, and here's what he says, which is kind of funny. But here he says, "Unhand me gold, you thieving hoods. You got more loot than Tiger Woods." Because he says, like, it's funny, but if you think about it, like, other times he acts like he doesn't know about things in the present day. Like, why would he even know about Tiger Woods? It's like,
well, yeah, because we don't know how long he's been locked back up in that statue since Ice-T first, or Mac Daddy first put him in his office or all that shit. We get a sense that it starts off in some 70s era, and then it just jumps to present day, which would be 2000. So he's been, he wouldn't know who the fuck Tiger Woods.
Yeah, yeah. I laughed at it the first time I heard it, but then I started thinking about it more, and I was like, oh, that don't even make sense. Because later on, he does not know about something that's present time. And this is another funny line. Right after that, someone in the room's like, "What the hell is that?" And then someone else says, "I don't know. Chucky on crack. Shoot that motherfucker." And then they have guns and they shoot him, and they actually shoot one of his arms off, but he's a leprechaun, so he can put the arm back on. So he's able to, yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, our three guys take the gold actually, do they take any gold?
I think they grabbed it. I'm not sure if they actually, but
they take some of it because that's what they take to the pawn shop.
Yeah.
That's why the leprechaun goes to the pawn shop. See, that's right. The gold is in there because they take the gold, go to the pawn shops to pawn off some of the gold, and that's why the leprechaun ends up going to each of the pawn shops to get his gold back.
Yeah, he wants it. He wants the gold back. He's not gonna. He still wants the gold, but it is a little different. He's got different goals in this one than normally, especially later. After he gets everything back, it's his completely different goals than normally.
Yeah, normally it would just be the gold completely throughout the whole movie, but this flute, the magic flute becomes his obsession.
Yeah. Well, it's the last piece of gold that's out. is after he gets his other stuff back, and he needs to get I mean, he has to have all of his gold back, or he's like OCD. He can't not have it.
Oh Jesus, he's OCD.
Yeah, but they are. The leprechauns are like you see them in one of the other movies. What is it? They throw the shoes when they threw the shoes on the ground. That was
That's the first
great.
one. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
they do that after the first one with the
yeah.
whole shining the shoes thing.
I guess they thought it was too goofy, but it was pretty good. That shoe. Then I think there's another one where they had to throw something on the ground, and then he was like really OCD about it, and had to put everything back in place.
Mm.
But I mean, I think that's a good weakness for him because he's a very powerful creature. He's got lots of powers, but he also needs to have weaknesses. Even though those weaknesses are silly, it's like if you could do some OCD stuff to him and make him have to fix something for a long period of time, it gives you time to get away. Otherwise, you'll never get away. But they get away. I mean, they get away in this one
A
easier
lot.
than some of the other ones because after they shoot his arm off and blow him up, they run off and he's in there putting his arm back on, and then Ice-T wakes back up, and it turns out he has a gold coin around his neck, and it saved his life.
Yeah.
But then he goes and he escapes too really easily. Like, there's a little bit of a dialogue between him and the leprechaun, and then he runs off. He gets away. He goes to the bar. He's making a phone call, and then one of the best scenes, I think, he goes into the bathroom, and the leprechaun shows up in the bathroom and he's smoking weed, and the leprechaun smokes a joint with him.
Like I said, they have a lot of fun with this movie.
Yeah, but he says like the leprechaun's like, oh, nice, and he's like, I didn't write down the first thing he says. He's like nice mix or something like that, and he's like, a friend with weed is a friend indeed. He's like, but a friend with gold is the best, I'm told. And then,
Write it down.
yeah. And then he like takes one of Mac Daddy's fingers and he rips it off. And then
Yep.
he tells him, Mac Daddy, he needs to go find his gold. So
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea, which is weird because he's never sent anyone else to go get his stuff for him.
yeah, Mac Daddy doesn't even have any intention of doing that at
No,
all.
not,
And he actually right after that, he's like, that motherfucker tore my finger off. I'm gonna kill him.
well, it's great because we get to see Ice-T's character back there throughout the entire film because all he does is keeps going after Master P and the rest of them to get that damn flute back, but he doesn't do a really good job of it for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Because he really just wants that flute back for himself because that flute is what made him rich.
Yeah, yeah.
But then this leprechaun goes into the bar after this. Mac Daddy leaves, and then there's a bartender in there, and they have some back and forth like dialogue and arguing, and then finally the leprechaun starts fighting him, and then he fights him a couple of times, and finally he just electrocutes him.
Mhm.
That this is the note. This is like when he hears rap, or he doesn't know what rap is. He's like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
sort of thing. Because if he knows what Tiger Woods is, he would definitely know what rap is. But again, I'm looking too much into it. But it's funny that they break their own rules just for a joke. You know?
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing about this franchise, and it's all a joke to the
Yeah.
people making these films. And so when you're watching them, you have to have a sense of disbelief that you just go with. I don't say that a lot about a lot of franchises, but these films are not designed to, like, you're going to have plot holes, you're going to have things that don't make sense. The whole point is to entertain the audience with the most ridiculous ideals possible. And I don't recall any other franchise being able to do that and be successful at it.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I mean, they were successful. They were able to keep making them. There's only one more with Warwick Davis after this. There was definitely a break between the next one
Mhm.
and Origins.
Yeah, but the thing
But I
about
think from what I was reading, like Warwick Davis,
what?
when
No, you're about to say some
oh,
Warwick Davis
now I was
what?
gonna say the thing I read about Warwick Davis is yeah, yeah. I was just saying like he decided he didn't want to do it anymore because of his kids. I don't know at what point in time that was, but there was definitely a point in time when he didn't want to do the horror movies because of his kids. So that was part of
Oh,
what maybe that may have stopped the whole thing for a while. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I would. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, see, certain actors who get pigeonholed as a particular horror icon. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Robert Englund, pigeonholed as Freddy Krueger for the longest fucking time, or
Yeah,
Angus Scrimm as the tall man. I
yeah.
mean, it's sad that these
Robert
actors.
Englund's a really good actor too, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he is.
When you see
Uh,
him at other stuff, he's really good.
yeah, but he was not afforded the opportunity to do a lot more stuff other than horror for most of his later
Yeah.
years. I think he just embraced it, and
Yeah.
went with it.
Yeah.
Warwick Davis, I think this is the only horror he ever did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Robert Englund had done stuff before he became Freddy Krueger.
When did Warwick Davis did the Willow movie? That was
Yes,
probably
yeah, well,
before Leprechaun, and
well, he,
also
well,
yeah,
yeah, but he also did, the Harry Potter movies after Leprechaun, and
yeah,
of
it's
course
true. Yeah,
he did Star Wars movies before.
he's
So,
apparently going to be play that same character in the Harry Potter TV show.
oh,
Read
interesting.
about that. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. They're having it back in there. It's funny how he played the same character in the movies, even though the character's look changes in between movies. It's like he goes from looking like a goblin or something to looking like a like a I guess with the little guy in Waxwork or in some of the later ones.
So okay, so after
But
the
there is some weird like thing that when he electrocutes the bartender guy, his
bartender,
eyes turn green.
yeah.
So some kind of, I mean, the eyes looking green looks pretty good. Now they had like a low budget, so and this was early CGI, so there's some CGI there, but it's okay. It's not that bad, but it does kind of stand out compared to the practical special effects, which are all really solid in the film.
So in this film, there is a lot of the green eye effects throughout the entire movie. Because one of the new powers in this movie is that the leprechaun can possess people.
Yeah.
So we see that a lot in this movie, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because that's like we said, his powers change in each one of these films.
Right. I think the possession looks it looks good, but when he electrocutes the bartender, it's on top of the green eyes look good. It's like the electrical part of it looks a little hokey.
Mm.
But I think the possession part is not done right in the movie. It's not established very good in the film because
Oh
all of a
no.
sudden, yeah, and there's a reason for that. Because the rap scene at the end was supposed to take place near the beginning of the film. Because during that rap scene, he actually possesses all three of the women in the bar, and that was supposed to be the introduction to people getting possessed. So,
Oh.
but it's so weird because I didn't think about it until after the director's commentary, and they told me that they had to do that, and I was like, because for pacing purposes. But I'm looking at it, and I'm it would have been a lot better if it would have been in the right place because you would have understood how the possession thing worked a lot earlier. You can fill in the blanks with it, but it takes a long time to figure out what the heck's going on with some of the weird new powers that he has.
Yeah, because when I think it's the three ladies take the one who's not possessed in the elevator, we
Yeah.
know that they're taking her up to be possessed.
I don't
But
think they're taking her up to be possessed.
you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think they're taking her up because
To be a sex slave?
yeah, the other guy, he's like, I think he's taking him up there and fucking him to death. That's what the guy said. I really think that's everything that guy says is true. So I think he's really fucking him to death. I think that's what he's doing.
I just took that as just being hilariously stupid.
I don't
Uh,
know, but everything else he says is true though. So, and like you don't see anybody else possessed other than the three
the
girls.
three, you're right about that. You do only see the three possessions, so you could be right about that. And I just was seeing something more PG in that whole thing.
I mean, I thought it was goofy at too, but then it was like the more I thought about it, I was just like, and but really once you get to that point, the leprechaun has no his only he's not like normally he's trying to get his gold back or he has some mission. But at that point, he's got everything. He's cool. He just wants to like fuck these women to death, you know?
I know
That's
that's
his
the odd thing
goal.
about this movie is like he'd be after people the entire movie, but he has this time to just chill, and
Yeah.
that's not what I'm used to seeing in this
Yeah.
film. And it's very much how the way it ends as well. This one ends way differently than all the other movies that
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about so far. Way
Right.
different. Um, and I actually like that. There's a different aspect to the whole the what could happen in a Leprechaun movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think every other one seemed to almost be like going by the motion picture code of the bad guy has to pay by the end of the movie. You know, so, or this one doesn't, and it is kind of
Um,
refreshing. It's a little shocking, but it is kind of refreshing that they change it up.
the way they did it, yeah, it
Yeah,
does. Um,
but like as far, but then they going back to earlier. I guess we should talk about that a little bit more later. But this when we, but when you go back to the pawn shop and they sell the gold, and and they go to the second pawn shop and they buy party supplies, I guess, with the money, just because they
yeah,
had to show the second one again. And then Mac Daddy returns to his office, and that's when he notices the flute's gone, and he's like, "Oh, we're cooked," sort of thing. And then Leprechaun kind of starts to go after the pawn shop owners. The first one is really weird what it does because that's and this is like it kind of cuts back and forth, but with the Leprechaun just sitting in a room. Because this the other scene should have happened before this. It keeps cutting back to him sitting in a room with these girls or something around him that you haven't really been established.
hmm
And this one girl shows up to the pawn shop owner outside of his car, and it apparently is it one of the guy's moms? Is that who you think that was?
yes, from my understanding, because of the way that Jackie reacts to her, that that she was a previous girlfriend or he had an affair with her.
Well,
I get
yeah, well,
uh,
the
but she
director
looks
did, yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah.
There's something we don't know what it was she supposedly looked like before, but now she's like this hot ass babe that Jackie can't keep his hands on. But later on, we are told that Stray Bullet's mother was the one seeing Jackie. So I get the impression that this woman that the leprechaun masquerades as is supposed to represent Stray Bullet's mother. Um,
Yeah, so the director did say this in the commentary, even though it was kind of an odd thing in the commentary because the guy who was doing the commentary with him, they were talking, and then he was like asked the director a question. He's like, "What is the deal with this woman?" And then the director's like, "Let me watch it for a minute," and he watched the scene, and he's like, "Okay, so that was the pawn shop owner's wife who had died, so and now she's appeared back from the dead." So that's what the director said. I guess maybe he knew what he was talking about, but it did seem like it was like a long time before he hadn't seen this movie. He didn't remember it. He had to actually watch part of the scene to remember it. So I guess you take it with a grain of salt if that's really true or not.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, I would have never picked up on that. I just kind of assumed that was Stray Bullet's a representation of Stray Bullet's mother.
Well, I
Because
think
like I
his,
said
his
later,
mom's yeah, his mom's probably dead though. It all I mean that could all work, even though it's like
oh
it's not necessary. It's like it's not necessary to be that complicated or convoluted with it.
well,
But
it would be weird because Stray Bullet doesn't act like he really is part of the family with Jackie, but who knows? Uh,
yeah, no, but then yeah,
it's
and
not
yeah.
important to the story we're being told at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So now here's the weird thing about this setup. It's not the leprechaun himself. He is controlling this. Because all of a sudden her face changes to like almost leprechaun-y, but then it cuts back to the leprechaun sitting there in the room as Jackie's killed by it,
hmm
by this apparition, or is it the leprechaun, or is he controlling a puppet, or I don't know. Any ideas on that?
I assumed it was the leprechaun masquerading as her, but I would probably have to rewatch it to
Well,
specifically
yeah.
for that
I think
myself.
it's weird that it cuts back to him in the room because it's like he's like it's almost like he's controlling it. And I don't. Some of this stuff is not made clear that happens, and it is. it doesn't really help that it's not made clear. It's kind of a little aggravating,
Mm.
really,
No, I can
because
see that. I can see that. I just assumed because Leprechaun has masqueraded as other characters in previous films, that was what it was. But you're right. It does get a little bit dicey there.
and it's almost like they didn't want, because the girl comes up and starts making out with the dude, and it's like almost like they didn't want to make the leprechaun seem like he was making out with the dude. They wanted to make it seem like he was just chilling in the room, maybe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's masqueraded as women before in other movies, and this
Yeah,
film is the first film that has a cross dresser in it, and they deal with those type of ideals in this film throughout.
yeah,
The leprechaun, in theory, is with the one character in the bedroom who thinks that they're going to have sex.
yeah. Yeah, I don't. I mean, they made it more complicated, or maybe they didn't have. Now, that was another note I didn't say before. When he kills the Chan guy, you don't see the leprechaun really at all in that scene. You just see his hand. It's like they didn't have him fully made up, but maybe they didn't have him. They didn't have him ready for this scene where the girl shows up, and so they had this other just close up shot of him, and then maybe they cut to it because to make it so that made it look like the leprechaun was doing the scene rather than him not in the scene. I don't know. I think they had to make some creative decisions on this one because of shooting. Maybe they weren't able to shoot everything the way it was written.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And they mentioned none of that in the commentary at all, I'm sure.
Well, not specifically, but they did mention things like that they were, they did have like a budget issue. They had like a certain amount of days they had to shoot it in, and so they probably did have to make concessions. They had they had like Ice-T and Warwick Davis. They were available to him at all times. But with the Warwick Davis, it could have been a situation too where it could have been a makeup situation or some reason why they didn't have him. Because if the guy's sitting there with a girl and suddenly her face starts to look like a leprechaun, the next thing that should happen with the leprechaun should be there in place of her and then kill the dude. But it doesn't go there.
Yeah, you're right.
Instead it cuts back to him just sitting in a room like he's the puppet master or something.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until you just mentioned it. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Huh.
But that's really the only time you see this happen. And it is very bizarre. Um, the next part after this is that roof party where they're up on the roof and it's not like there's a party in the other room and the three of the guys are sitting around having like a conversation. They're kind of like they think that they've killed Mac Daddy and now out of nowhere they're upset about it and they're having some regrets about killing a dude.
Yeah.
And luckily Mac Daddy shows up with his bodyguard there and wants to flute back. So now they know that they didn't kill him, so they don't have to worry about it anymore.
No.
But then he shoots at them, and they jump off the roof, and luckily land in a dumpster. And, and then he shoots at his bodyguard shoots at him, and then they run away. And then at that point, briefly, Butch does think that Mac Daddy's a ghost, which is kind of
Yes.
ridiculous because the bodyguard's there too, where they both ghost. It's like
Butch is the one who's always on drugs, anyways.
yeah.
So you forgive him for some of his less reliable observations, because he's thinking of all the spooks and monsters and stuff the whole way through the movie.
Yeah.
He's also the explosive person. So
Right. I guess it makes sense because later on he does have a lot of information about everything that turns out, like we were talking earlier, does turn out to be true, all of it. Um, this is the part you're talking about earlier, where they go to hang out or they go to lay low and they go to the transvestite friend who
mhm.
is this is a very bizarre character and
It's interesting that they chose this character to include in this movie. There's a lot of ideals in this movie to make it much more, at the time, progressive and modern, and
yeah.
make it like they like they could have done this movie without having a cross-dressing character that completely and just kept it urban. But this plays into the later part of the film when the characters dress up as
Yeah.
cross-dressers as well.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, it's very out. It seems out of place to me in this film. It's bizarre. it's kind of funny, and it's kind of sexual really when they do it, but it's like it goes from being in the hood to this kind of odd transvestite film a few times, and it's kind of weird they would have these gangster guys have this transvestite friend. It's a dude that's dressed in like a pink dress and wears like a blonde wig, and he seems like he's just always dressed in a sexual garb, and he's everything sexual to him. It seems
Yeah,
like, you know.
that's a little odd. Even from my perspective, that's odd. Because I kind of see cross dressing as it is mostly for that community, which is it's an art form, and they just don't go around dressed in sexual stuff all the time as a cross dresser. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this character is a cross between many different types of characters, and to make it more interesting visually for the audience and more provocative and crazy and funny at the same time. They kind of meld a lot of different ideals into this character. And then, of course, later when we see the two, I don't,
It's just
no,
two of them
three.
at that point. No, no,
Yeah,
there's
okay.
two of them.
I had to think about that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
two, cross dress. It kind of sets that up so it doesn't seem so out of place later on. Now they could have gotten away with not doing it at all,
Yeah.
really, but because they don't look like women.
Yeah,
Butch
it's yeah,
and Postmaster do not look women in the
yeah.
outfits, but
Especially Butch, especially Butch. It's like you don't even try, you know.
yeah.
The other guy kind of tries, but it's like he even
So
shaves his legs to
so
do
it's
it.
hilarious for that. I don't know. It would be interesting to see what modern day LGBTQ audiences would think about this whole thing, and if it wasn't like a stereotype or anything like that. I don't know, but in 2000, you weren't seeing this a lot in
Yeah.
movies in
No.
2000.
Well, it's handled in a way because a lot of times these transvestite characters weren't in this type of light. They would be like Silence of the Lambs, where they were like a mental like serial killer, or there was some kind of like terror train when the transvestite was the killer. But
Hmm.
here, this character is handled with a lighter touch, even though it is a very sexual character. It seems to like after they're laying low and like later on after everybody's gone, he just like takes off the top part of his thing is like ready to have sex with somebody, and he's like who's coming in here, you know. But which they're all kind of like yeah, they're not going to do it, you know. If it was a more progressive film like today, one of the three guys might actually go for it, I would think, if it was today. But here they're all three not gonna, they're not into it. So no, you know, they're just like, okay, yeah, we're not going there with that.
Yeah,
Is that it's
yeah. No, I agree with you on there. And even having the Butch character who's a virgin is actually something that you wouldn't normally see in this type of movie back then either.
yeah.
There's a lot of ideals in this film that were like, well, that's not the norm. Um, that
Yeah.
that makes this film stand out a little bit more than some of the other films. Now I couldn't tell you about the second one, Back to the Hood, because I don't remember that, and we'll discuss that next year.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time since I've seen Back to the Hood, but I think Back to the Hood, I mean, I actually liked that one a lot when I saw it the first time, but it doesn't do anything it doesn't do anything progressive or out of place for the hood area. I think it really keeps it more urban. Where this one in the second half of the film, once they start trying to lay low, they kind of get out of the hood a lot because they go from here to like a church to
Yes.
their mom's house, and it's like they're not really embracing the hood for like a long period of time during the film because of them trying to lay low.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this movie has so many different locations in it. These characters are like on the road, but not really on the road. They just
Yeah.
go from one location to the next location to the next location.
They
Um,
were talking about the director and the guy asking them the questions. They were both directors for, but they were shooting. They were familiar with the studio. It's like a studio, I guess, in California, where they just had all these locations at the studio, and you pretty much pay to shoot there, and you could, you know, dress up wherever you want to. So they had most of these locations were there at that place. So I mean,
Interesting.
that's why you have so many locations, because that's probably why some of the decisions were made. Like the church was probably because of that. Yeah,
A,
more than likely.
a church where the reverend doesn't seem exactly
Yeah.
reverently type, because he
Yeah.
more or less charges them to stay at the church, and he has a gun readily available. Uh,
I think that actually helps. Actually, it does make it more like a hood, even though
yeah,
it's back in the church for like a little while. Um, but then it's like this on the with the transvestite, they're out on the roof trying to sing. That's when the neighbor comes out telling them off that
yeah.
they sound like crap, and then the transvestite and the other two guys walk in, and Postmaster P's sitting out there by himself, and then he starts playing the flute. And that brings the neighbor back out, and he's like, "Let's hear some more." And suddenly, there's a house party, and they're all dancing. The whole neighborhood's there to hear them sing and do a rap. And we forgot to talk about it during the two pawn shop scenes. And both of those scenes earlier, he does play the flute. Postmaster Fee takes the flute out and plays, and everybody turns. It's like a Pied Piper sort of thing.
Yeah.
They all turn and they're just hypnotized by the flute. Which is those are pretty cool scenes. So the idea of the flute hypnotizing people and making them think that whatever you do is the best thing that they've ever heard.
So adding the magic flute element to this film actually elevates the franchise a little bit by giving the Leprechaun another element to why he does what he does, because we didn't have that in any of the previous films. There's not a particular object from his pot of gold that he
Yeah,
cares about more than any of the others. It's all part of his pot of gold. He doesn't care. He wants it all back. And more or less, we're following. It's a particular coin or something that he's getting after, like in the first film where he will dig into someone's stomach to get to his coins.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A flute makes it much more interesting. It's a different element. I don't know. I can't remember what they honestly, I can't remember what they went for in the second Back to the Hood, but it would have been an element that would have been interesting to explore in subsequent films if we saw
Yeah,
more of what's actually in the pot of gold and how those elements could be different from one another. I like that concept.
yeah,
I just don't think it was explored enough. This film explores the flute, and the flute's kind of cool, because it's an element that these musicians can use to make money. So
right. Yeah, I like the idea. And yeah, it would be cool if they came up with some other objects that were made out of gold that were in there that had some magical powers for the next ones. I don't think they do that, but I think they leave the flute at this one. Pretty sure, but I like the idea of the flute too, though. But so after that, then the leprechaun kills the transvestite. After he takes off his top and he goes back inside, then the leprechaun shows up, and the transvestite's like, "Okay, cool, let's go have sex." About some time somebody showed up, and then they go into the bedroom like you were saying earlier, like they're going to have sex, and then the three guys come back in, and then they hear something going on in there, and they like open the door, and it looks like the transvestite's having sex, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we didn't want to see that." But then the leprechaun actually kills him, but it don't last too long because then the leprechaun comes out there, and they have to go and hide in the
yeah,
bathroom, and
they do
'cause
a lot of hiding in this movie.
yeah, yeah, but they do eventually they catch him on fire. That's what like the Butch character has the idea to catch him on fire. They actually have some kind of because they have this explosive stuff. He puts some stuff on a rag because the leprechaun's just looking around the apartment for the flute. Like, why would it
It's
be in a
weird.
drawer?
That I
Yeah,
thought was odd, because normally he knows where he can get his magic coins and gold and stuff, but with the flute, he's like tearing up the apartment to find the flute. Where's my flute? Type of mentality. I'm like, that was kind of weird. Uh,
yeah. He takes it. So yeah, it is weird, and it's like then the Butch. I mean, some of the stuff, some of these scenes just are flying by the seat of their pants and
yeah,
not really mixed in with the actual lore of the leprechaun. But the Butch character he's got some douche from the bathroom and he mixes it with jelly. This makes a flammable rag. And so that when the leprechaun comes into the room, they catch him on fire. And he's actually on fire there for a second,
hmm
and then that's how they get away at that point. And then they go and hide in the church. Well, I think they go and see their blind grandmother first.
yeah. They go see the blind grandmother first before going to the church, which is
Yeah,
it's just a crazy little scene.
Yeah.
The ideal. I keep wondering why they did the whole blind grandmother thing. I thought it was kind of hokey.
Right, yeah, yeah. It seemed a little cliche, and it was just like it took you out of everything that was going on. It was just like we don't need it, and
But
it's yeah,
even even well, I would say this. Even later, when we see the scene with the leprechaun goes sees the blind grandmother, and he allows her, the blind grandmother, to feed him until she pokes out his eyeball. Stuff like that is
was
just ridiculous because I'm
yeah.
like, why is the damn leprechaun here to begin with?
But that was a dream sequence, that part. For
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
It's
I
so
keep
yeah. I mean, the character is completely unnecessary. I mean, it helped. She has a conversation with him about the flute again, and it it goes from the blind grandmother to the church, and I think
yeah,
those two locations were really pulled me out of the
really.
hood, mixed with the transvestite stuff. I was like, you got the transvestite, you got the blonde grandmother, you got this church location. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm in the hood anymore. It doesn't feel,
Wow.
yes, I definitely wasn't feeling like that they were using the hood as the location at that point.
It's an interesting observation. I think you're absolutely right. I had not thought about that, but yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
It's not that, I mean, I like the progressive ideas are cool, but it just doesn't, it takes it to a different type of feel, I think, but I don't know what they were cooking with some of this stuff, but
Well,
it's,
I think it's
it's
it's very close to what you said. I think they rented the location with all these smaller locations contained within it, and they decided to use them all.
yeah,
Whether or not it made any sense to the story they were telling, they decided to use them all and integrate those into the film that they were putting together. I think that maybe having the church, the reverence place there was fine, but having the grandmother there, I don't think that really adds a whole lot.
yeah.
It's just like a location they had there. They said, let's put some scenes there at
Yeah.
grandma's house. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
uh,
try to connect some family stuff to it, which I mean, this is a horror movie. It's not like we're not watching Menace to Society or something, or it's,
oh
but
Jesus,
yeah,
oh my God,
then the church thing, I mean, the church thing does help progress some of the plot because we do have them playing in front of the congregation, like which is kind of funny. The preacher, the guy, he tells them they can stay there, but they have to go out and play music, and they go out there and try to play music in front of the church, and they start cussing and saying offensive things, even though they're trying to keep it as clean as they can. It's cleaner than most rap music that the other guys are singing, but they still can't do it clean enough to
It-
for the church.
no, but I love Stray Bullets. His the actor's reactions of, and when he realizes that his lyrics don't work in a church.
Yeah.
Dude, I was rolling with that when I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that was great comic timing for that actor and the way he pulled those lines off. Because I had a lot of fun with that. But then we get the most fun that we have in that scene is when Postmaster decides to blow the whistle
Yeah.
after people are walking out of the church after they performed just a
Yeah.
small bit. They're
Yeah.
chasing out people,
Yeah.
and then he blows the whistle, and they all come back, and they're
Right.
rapping the song, and it's actually not a bad song either.
Yeah.
For church. So yes, I really did enjoy that.
That's when like Coolio randomly shows up too,
Yes,
I think. It's just like
I
it's
completely forgot Coolio was this movie, but then
yeah.
again, in 2000, Coolio was still huge, and so I guess maybe like Ice T, he just decided to
Yeah.
show up in the movie or something.
Yeah. It was funny. The director said he came in there and he shot his two shots and then he left. He's like there for maybe half an hour. That was it. It's like it's like all right, I'm out.
Oh wow.
It's funny though because because it makes sense that they play for this church and someone else heard them and all of a sudden Coolio just in there like, yeah, you guys are pretty good. It's not bad.
Oh my God. I remember when I liked Coolio. Uh but I did not remember that scene was in there at all until I was watching it. I was like,
It's very,
oh
very
shit.
brief. I mean, it's literally like 10 seconds he's in
Yeah.
there and it's like he's out. But
Yeah, but
then,
it's interesting because we in this film we do get to see these three play rap. And we get to see their version of wholesome rap instead of the gangster rap. There is no gangster rap in this movie. We don't get to hear any gangster rap. performed. It's all their ideal of what rap should be. Now they're not 100% wholesome lyrics, obviously, because the church going people
Yeah.
fly in a real church. But yeah, they are
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good. Yeah.
He said so. I didn't write down what they were rapping about at that point, but they said something somewhat offensive. It was like mildly offensive, but the
Oh
church
yeah.
was like, "Oh hell no, I ain't listening to this," and they get up and leave. It's just, um, it, it's like Mac Daddy starts to show up at the church, and there's a scene when the three of them are hiding, and they do like a fist bump, and then the third one goes to fist bump the person beside him, and it ends up being the leprechaun, and it's like that
And
was a
like,
nice, yeah,
well, it's one of those things where a leprechaun shows up in random places. This is where it seems like he can teleport. Is like these random places like this.
yeah.
You don't know why or how, because then you get to the point where you're wondering why he just doesn't teleport out of the safe that they get him locked into.
Well, the safe is iron, like he can't get out of it.
They say that in this movie,
They don't say it, but that's what happens
first movie
the,
or second
in the
movie.
second movie. Yeah, in the they trap him in the safe, and then that other guy that Murray guy like lets him out. He puts the pot of gold in his
Yeah,
stomach, like an idiot. But
I was trying to. Well, see, the thing is, they don't explain the rules before we start watching these movies, and we know the rules change every fucking movie.
yeah,
So,
they change from scene to scene typically.
so the only reason why I remember the iron because they set that up in the second movie, but in this movie they don't set it up. So I was like,
Yeah.
because he could teleport sometimes, he could teleport not sometimes. Why didn't he teleport out of the freaking safe? Blah blah blah. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But he does get out of the safe really oddly though in this
Oddly,
one.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
we see how he gets out of the safe, but he gets out of the safe.
Yeah, he gets out, but I mean, the girls let him out. The possessed women. I think that's the first time we really see them in motion during that sequence. But we see them briefly in the other scenes that when they're just like laying beside him, catatonic. But it's
Yeah,
like we don't see them in motion until that sequence when they get him out of the safe. But but that's but before that happens, Mac Daddy does show up, and he corners them with a gun. And then that's when the leprechaun kills the bodyguard. He
hmm
blows a hole through his chest, which is pretty cool. And then Mac Daddy escapes again. So it's only we get to see Mac Daddy briefly. And, and that's when they go into the room with the preacher, and then they figure out the safe thing, and then they get him to come into the safe, which is odd that they had a big iron safe in the room and they were able to move it so they could trick him into coming through the door and jump
yeah,
into the safe. And it's
yeah. You kind of wonder why he doesn't just transport into the other room as well. Why he doesn't?
yeah, I'm still not sure he can teleport in this one, even though he did appear when they were doing the
It's
hand thing. But he could have just walked up there because you don't actually see him physically teleport in this one, I don't think. Because if he could,
No, you
then
don't. Not like
yeah.
in the last film. No, you don't see him physically just teleport like in the last one.
But but then something interesting happens after that. They take the flute and they try to record with it, but it can't be recorded.
hmm
And then that's when they find out the preacher has a gun in his podium, so they take the gun from his podium. And then they return to the place for the audition. They go back to do the audition for the second time, and it goes really well this time because they have the flute and
Yeah,
they're able to trick the people. And well, they never really played the first time. They probably would have done okay, but they probably would have complained about the lyrics not being too wholesome, more than likely. But they're very impressed because the flute's
it
going
makes
on.
sense.
Yeah, and that's when the three, they call them zombie fly girls in the credits. So this is when they show up, and I really like the characters. It's kind of the establishment of them is not done well, but I like the way that their wardrobe is very, very revealing, and
Yep.
they got sunglasses on, and when they pull their sunglasses off, you see they have green eyes, and they're possessed by the leprechaun.
Yeah, and a lot of times we see these three zombie fly girls because it's funny that he calls them his zombie fly girls. Uh, well, it reminded me of In Living Color with the fly
Yeah,
girls in Living Color when he said that. Like
yeah,
I can't remember when In Living Color was popular, but it was funny listening to him call them his zombie fly girls.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's definitely what it was from, though, because they don't call them fly girls anymore. I hadn't heard that in a long time,
I
but
haven't either.
because in Living Color, like it was like in the opening credits, like
Yeah,
in the fly girls, they were like a big group of fly girls.
I remember. I think Jennifer Lopez was one of
Yeah,
those
oh yeah, was
fly
she?
girls. So
Yeah, they look pretty good typically, the fly girls, from what I remember. But
well, they do in this movie too.
yeah, yeah,
They just have green eyes.
yeah, yeah. Well, they got sunglasses on, so it's
Um, but yeah, I found them trying to, they capture the leprechaun, and of course they tell the Reverend to keep him on ice while they go do the whole
the audition.
audition.
Yeah,
Um, and then the audition goes extremely well, and they like if they play that way in Vegas, they're sure to win the whole thing. The promoter of the whole thing tells them, which is interesting. Um, I
yeah.
kind of I like that trajectory with these or progression of these three characters whose only goal throughout the whole film is to get to Vegas to be able to sing or rap what they want to rap and win and become famous. They don't lose track of that, despite the fact that they got Mac Daddy following after them and the Leprechaun coming after them.
Right. Well, yeah, that's where they're trying to hide the whole time because they're going to hide and lay low until the audition because the audition is their way out of
Yeah,
everything. Because if they actually go to Vegas and become big, it's going to be harder for Mac Daddy to be able to get to them.
yeah.
That's what they think anyway. But I don't think Mac Daddy was going to get to him anyway. He's pretty pissed off, and plus they had the flute, so you know, it would take a lot of money and a lot of bodyguards to stop Mac Daddy from actually catching up with him eventually.
Yeah, he would have come back with him when he came back to Vegas. I mean, came back from Vegas. But that they're short term. They're just thinking about what they need to get from point A to point B, which is fine. I mean, these characters don't have a whole lot of like real ambition. It literally is we need to get to Vegas to show everyone that we are the next big rap group, so we can become famous. Unfortunately, for them after that last incident where they were with the Reverend, they after the audition they encounter the Leprechaun again. So
Yeah, yeah, they're in the back room after the audition. That's the Fly Girls show up in there,
mhm.
and then they take off the glasses and they're surrounded. This is a pretty shocking scene in a way, but at the same time, it's one of those where if all three of the guys had made it out of the movie alive, it would have felt a little cheap, I think, even though it might have made it feel a little better for the next one. In the first Leprechaun movie, all the characters did live,
Mhm.
which I mean it worked, but here that doesn't happen here. So I thought it was going to happen because they were like staying alive a long time and staying together, but and a lot of this is from that. I don't know if it's greed or ambition, but the Leprechaun gets his flute back, and then he's going to leave. And he acts like he's going to leave and not kill him. He doesn't seem like he cares about killing him. And he goes to leave, and then Postmaster P wants the flute back, so he goes after him. But then Leprechaun, instead of killing Postmaster P, he makes Stray Bullet turn the gun around on him. He has a gun in his hand. He makes him turn it around on himself and shoot himself in the head, which is it's a pretty for this movie and the way that it's this movie had like it changes tone several times during the course of the film, and it's a fairly surprising thing that happens there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was not the way that this movie progresses with its comedy elements and everything else makes you believe that these three characters, Butch, Stray Bullet, and Postmaster, are going to survive at the end, and all the people around them will end up getting killed by a leprechaun. That's what you had a feeling for. But when the leprechaun turns the gun on Stray Bullet to shoot himself, and then you see Butch and Postmaster setting up, Stray Bullet in an abandoned car, like you're setting up a staged suicide, more or less. or a state
Yes.
gang related crime. I don't think we're 100% sure either way, the way they set it up, but it's
Yeah, it kind of looked like that. Yeah, they were trying
yeah,
to make it look like, yeah. I mean, it was they were gonna it was believable enough. I think that they would have just thought it was a gang crime or something like that, you know.
yeah, but it's kind of it's an odd feeling scene because you feel down now because one of the boys are actually killed and the leprechaun made him kill himself. Thankfully, we don't see it on screen, but we feel it, the aftermath of it.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
so now,
the movie never recovers from that feeling either, I don't think.
no,
But I mean, it's a very bold move, especially in a movie that's been really fun up until that point. But really, the rest, it does put a bit of a cloud over the rest of the film.
yeah,
And weird shit starts happening after that, like really weird shit. Yeah, like that girl, like we were talking about, the girl that the zombie fly girl's bringing that one girl up for him to bring up and fuck her to death.
yeah. Now that you tell me that, like that's my image now. That seems just fucking odd as shit. Now, you are absolutely right about that. It just seems weird.
Yeah,
Because yeah, it's like this is what the leprechaun does when he has this pot of gold and he has free reign and he's not stuck as a statue. This is what he does,
yeah.
which we've never really seen in any of the movies because we always see him come out of captivity for the short amount of time in the movie, and then he's either killed or goes back into captivity.
Yeah. But I mean, here they do seem to be they're doing that part of the script where all is lost sort of thing. The characters separate. The Postmaster P is now wallowing in despair because he should be, because it's his fault his friend got killed, because he like couldn't let the leprechaun take off with the flute.
Mhm.
And but he should like be backing off, and then but instead of doing that, and this is what that dream, there's like a three-part dream sequence. There's like
I forgot about that.
yeah,
It's a dream within a dream. Yeah.
yeah. Like the first one you're talking about with the blind grandmother comes back and the eye thing, and then he wakes back, then he wakes up on the couch, and then Stray comes in, and the last time we see that character on screen, and he's like a zombie, and he's like, and then he wakes back up again, and then Butch comes, and Butch has he, has a book, Leprechaun for Dummies, so it does
Yes,
kind of
I
bring
mean,
the
know that
comedy
leprechaun
back.
for
Yeah,
dummies.
yeah. And he comes up with a plan, which is also a funny plan. I do like the plan. They have weed with four-leaf clovers in it, so they got to get the leprechaun to smoke the weed. And then here's Butch, and finally we get some rules for the movie. He says leprechauns are dark elves of Satan, each one with its own pot of gold. They let's see. I'm trying to read my own handwriting here. So, so some people always try to capture them, and the gold is a ransom for their freedom. Anyone fucking with their shit is then hunted down and killed in a most brutal manner. And then the leprechaun can temporarily lose his powers with a four-leaf clover. And some of those rules don't quite make sense. It's like some of them do. And then he's like, the plan is he's got a weed laced with a four leaf clover. They need to get the leprechaun to smoke it.
So yeah, that's their plan is to get the
Yeah,
leprechaun smoking.
yeah. And then he also says this. Now Butch has been doing a lot of surveillance and reading Leprechaun for Dummies. He's like, the leprechaun has a room at the nightclub, the Golden Parrot, upstairs, and he says he has the zombie hose hypnotizing people, taking them up there each night, and then Post is like, "What for?" He's like, "I don't know, but they're not coming back down. He's probably fucking them to death." It's,
Yeah,
but he does say that probably, so maybe he's not. We don't see any evidence
we don't, and
either
we don't see him
way.
come back. We don't see him
Yeah,
come back. We don't see any more possessed ones. It's just the three. Who knows? It's a
yeah,
plot hole that we just don't know what the hell's going on
yeah.
with.
I don't know. Maybe it's a plot hole, or maybe it's just something that they wanted to leave up to interpretation. But
That's a big
just think,
interpretation.
but thinking about the leprechaun really screwing them to death is pretty messed up.
Yeah,
It's a, I think it's a step in the wrong direction, really. Yeah,
It's a continuation from Leprechaun in Space, where the leprechaun was trying to marry a princess.
yeah. But the leprechaun marrying the princess, though, they were trying to kill each other, but there was like that back and forth between them, which was quite hilarious. And he was like going for just one girl. Here, he's like wanting them to bring him up a victim like every night, like he's like a vampire or something, or here, like maybe a serial killer. I don't know.
Well, when you say it like that, Dave, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way, but
Yeah.
you had me thinking, had me reevaluating exactly what he meant to do with these ladies.
I don't know if I mean, he does seem to like to kill people, but it's usually because he's trying to get his gold back. But maybe he has this bloodthirst and he's just gonna want to kill people anyway. It's very,
So if either one
very,
of us,
very odd.
well, if either one of us meets Warwick
But
Davis,
now,
we can. I said, if either one of us meets Warwick Davis, we can ask him, what was your motivation for when you were taking those ladies up to your enthralled room or something, and were you fucking them to death, or were you just changing them and we just didn't see them? We gotta know this.
yeah, yeah.
Who
I wonder
knows?
what he's doing with the bodies because they're nowhere to be seen either.
Oh Jesus!
Now, what happens? Now the sequence like we talked about earlier when the two guys decide they're gonna dress like women. So they, in order to get in there, I guess to get them to smoke the weed, they have to dress like women to trick them, and they're not very convincing looking like
No,
women.
not in the slightest
It's,
bit.
no, and then so they go. It's such an odd thing, and then they're in this friggin' wardrobe the rest of the film. But they go in there, and the three women who are possessed, they get them to smoke the weed first, and suddenly they say all at the same time, like "Lep in the hood, come to no good. Lep in the hood, come to no good." And then they kind of snap out of this trance,
Yeah,
and that "Lep in the hood, up to no good" is like kind of part of the song that they sing at the end that should have been
yeah.
happened earlier. But it's funny though when they start doing that "Lep in the hood" thing, like all three of them, it's pretty hilarious. But then they're out of the trance, so they got past the zombie fly girls, and then they go up the elevator to where the leprechaun is, and the leprechaun is fooled by them being women. He can't tell either, and they want him to smoke the weed, which he tells him. All right, so they want him to smoke the weed, but the leprechaun goes. Here's what he says. Now, here's another reason why I think he's fucking them to death. Because they come in there and he's like, "Come closer, my fresh young lass. Let me take a look at you before I tap your ass."
He does say that. You're right. All right, Dave, you convinced me. He's up there fucking them to death.
Because they're not coming back down, you know? And it's like,
Oh my God, you have changed my interpretation of this movie now.
but
That leprechaun, dude, man,
yeah.
with
But
the hood and the leprechaun, I tell you.
he's smoking that weed, though. He brings him the weed and he gets the leprechaun to smoke it, and he's not really affected by it yet. And
No,
then he actually wants Postmaster P, who he still thinks is a woman, I guess, and he wants him to go. He's like wants him to go downtown on him. So he's about to have to do it, but then the leprechaun passes out. Yeah.
well, it's funny because Jesus, I'm not gonna leave that whole image now as the leprechaun just fucking these women to death. It's now stuck in my head. Dude. It's not coming out anymore. Uh, I was being way too innocent with this film, and now you've ruined the innocence.
It's
uh,
like,
but it is funny because he smokes the weed, and we know he'll smoke it because he smoked it earlier.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and of course, it is funny that he does pass out, but this gives the film enough time to bring back other characters in order to finish the damn movie off.
yeah. That's yeah. Because now, one thing we didn't mention before. Now, Matt Daddy does still have the medallion. They left the medallion in the office, and the
Oh,
medallion's
yeah, we did.
the only way to stop him, and that we know of. So, because this is a temporary fix to smoking the weed, but then they get the flute and they're leaving, and that's when there's some gunshots like Matt Daddy, and he shoots Butch,
Hmm.
which is another one of those scenes where a character he's actually you see him die on screen, and he's like kind of embarrassed that he's dressed like a woman before he dies, and
He
it's
has a virgin.
Yeah, and he dies of her. It's really kind of screwed up. No, he tries dressed as a woman and a virgin, so it's I don't know. That's another one of those kind of tonal shifts that goes from being this whole end thing it gets really odd. Just it's like they couldn't really quite pick the tone in it. I don't think because
Well,
and
it's
it's
one of those things that may work better on paper, but you're right. The tonal shifts so much in this third act, and not just the third act, but throughout the whole film, and it doesn't really recover after a stray bullet is killed. Like I don't think the movie is as fun as it was
yeah,
the first part of the movie after stray bullets killed. I mean, Master P
yeah, yeah.
Postmaster P has a freaking nightmares. Uh, yeah,
Did they dress? They dress like women and they go in there, and it's like when it's just when the weird stuff starts to happen. That's like it's just but then it does make for the ending itself is very interesting. But then Mac Daddy shows up and there's this he gets shot and they have a shootout, but he's still alive. And then the leprechaun does come back in and he eventually gets he gets the Mac Daddy has a medallion and it goes up in the air and you think it's going to land on the leprechaun and you assume that it does because that's what
yeah,
happens earlier. And then it cuts to black and Postmaster P's out on the stage and he's playing, everyone's loving it. And then he takes his sunglasses down and he has green eyes. He's been possessed, and the leprechaun's sitting there and he's the one that's done it. So it's a very like the very unexpected ending, and especially the leprechaun's usually killed at the end, and this is I think the only time he's not killed at the end of it.
he's not killed, and I always got the impression that Postmaster had made a deal with the Leprechaun for fame and fortune. And that's why we see him as a really important and successful rapper in that last sequence.
Yeah.
Uh, it seems it just seems odd that his eyes would turn green as though he was possessed like any of the other possessed people. But then I started thinking about why would the leprechaun even need to possess anybody to begin with? I can understand ladies because he
Yeah.
wants to have sex and kill them. But
Well, he's actually using them to get people. He doesn't. I don't think he has
yeah,
sex with the fly girls because I think if he does have sex with them, they probably will kill him because he fucks them to death. So it's
oh, Jesus, Dave, we're turning this movie upside
it's
down. I tell you, it just yeah. But the odd thing is that Postmaster is really successful. Dress is completely different. Has the green eyes, and then the leprechaun is over there.
he's
Like a
probably
man.
like I didn't make a note of this because you mentioned it earlier, but he's probably singing gangster rap in that scene because it would make sense because in a way he's sold out for that last part. I don't remember what he's singing there if it goes on for very long, but it is. He might not be singing at all. It seems like he is playing for an audience and they're all loving it. But
Yeah, yeah. You get the impression that he's playing for somebody, but you're right. I don't remember the lyrics. I don't know if they're clean lyrics or if they're gangster rap. To be honest with you,
yeah,
that would be interesting because that will actually determine how the film ultimately ends. If it's gangster rap, then he would be selling out. If it's not gangster rap, then you would believe that that is actually Postmaster, uh, who has probably made a deal with the devil to get where he is.
yeah. Well, he's definitely made a deal with the devil, or either he's made the deal or he's possessed him. But
Yeah.
I mean, the leprechaun I guess, may need him as a person to make money for him because the leprechaun could go out there, I guess, rap himself, but he probably doesn't want to draw that attention to himself. So he gets somebody else to do it for him, so that way he's able to take the money that's being made.
I don't know. That's a lot of stuff for a leprechaun, dude. He's already got his pot of gold. He doesn't really need anything
Yeah,
else. He's
yeah.
not gonna spend it.
But but he is like getting bored though. He's already getting bored already because he's got the gold and now he's doing other stuff with these women and then this is just the next step of just doing more stuff that's
Leprechaun evolution.
yeah, yeah, just he's bored so he wants more stuff to do. It's more and more and more. So
I honestly don't know. I just thought it was odd to have Postmaster with the green eyes at the end. But That being said, this is one of the this is a lot different than any of the previous films in the franchise so far. A lot different. And there's a lot of open-ended stuff in this movie. I'm hoping that when we get around to the second one, that and I don't believe any characters are in this are in the second one that are in this one. I
No,
also
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
there
so.
are. Yeah.
So I think it's a self-contained story as well. So we'll be starting over again, like we have all the previous movies. Uh,
Yeah. The only ones that go together is the first one and the one that's called Leprechaun Returns. Those are the
yeah,
only ones that do follow continuity to each other. It's like a reboot.
yeah. It'll be interesting when we tackle that one. With this one though, this one has a lot of elements in it that were not present in any of the previous films, which makes it interesting. But also the fact that we have a more urban setting, as limited as that urban setting is. Now that we've discussed it.
It's
uh,
it's an uneven film. I think like
yeah,
I really like enjoy the first like maybe 30 or 40 minutes of the film. It was really on task, I think, for what it needed to do for being like a urban setting. It just kind of got uneven with different ideas that weren't really gelling with the concept in the second half. Um, well, some of them I guess do work, and some of it might make the film more memorable. But there is after that last scene, there is the end credit sequence, which I think help people forget about all of that because
yeah.
we get to see the leprechaun rap, which is a scene that should have been earlier in the movie, but it was kind of it. It would have helped for it to be early in the movie. That way, it would have made more sense with the fly girls getting possessed. But ending the movie with him rapping makes everybody not think about anything that didn't work before that, and it doesn't leave you with a weird taste in your mouth about the way that it does end on a very downbeat.
Oh well, I agree with you on there. To be honest with you, the only thing I remembered about this movie was the Leprechaun rap at the end.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
literally the only thing I remember before rewatching it for the podcast is the rap at the end. I did not remember anything about this movie, about except for the rap. That one
yeah,
I actually, no matter how bad or how good that rap is, it's just funny as shit to see Warwick Davis as a leprechaun rapping
yeah.
in the hood. I'm
It's
doing,
like
it's just hilarious, dude.
lep in the hood, up to no good.
Well, that's the thing about these movies. The reason why we enjoy these bad movies is because Warwick Davis is so he has this like charisma in these films that he just passes on from film to film, and you just like watching him be the leprechaun. He seems to be having so much damn fun, whether it's
Yeah,
telling the rhymes or like we were talking about the last film where he's waxing Shakespearean and seeing monologues by himself for no apparent reason. He
yeah,
seems to
yeah.
be like taking it all in stride and just going with it, and it works. Um, these are like the Sharknado movies
Yeah.
before Sharknado. They don't make any fucking sense. They don't need to make sense, really. You're watching them to be entertained, and at least they don't have shitty CGI sharks and tornadoes like those movies do. So
Right. It's funny that Warwick Davis is like the only connecting tissue to these movies. Apparently, they were in the commentary. He was asking the director about that. He's like, are any other producers or anybody else behind the scenes who are aware of the other movies? Or he's like, no, it's just Warwick Davis is the only person who has any connection to any of the crew wise or cast wise to any of the other movies. He just comes along and does it. He said he didn't need much direction. He's like I would have directed him, but he kind of already knew what to do in each of the scenes. So he
like
had an idea about how to
Warwick
do it.
Davis. The thing is, it's Warwick Davis. You just love to
Yeah,
have fun.
yeah,
To be honest with you, just let him have fun.
yeah,
Which is what he does. Which is one of the reasons, and we don't mention this enough. But the fact is, the Leprechaun is an iconic horror character, despite the fact that I think it's only first two I think we discussed that actually had theatrical releases, and the rest of them have all been straight to DVD, streaming, whatnot. That you can buy the Leprechaun mask and toys and all kinds of shit out there for the Leprechaun, and it's as we say a straight to DVD franchise. Like you wonder why, and I think it 120% is because of Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
That the Leprechaun is an icon of horror. Like if it wasn't Warwick Davis who played the Leprechaun in all these movies, I don't think that this franchise would be nearly as popular or as cult worthy as it actually is. I mean, we don't look at these movies as being good movies. We look at these movies as being fun, frivolous, throwaway movies that we just happen to watch Warwick Davis as a leprechaun just chew the scenery
Yeah.
and kill
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and his makeup is on point all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
I think that maybe they established it earlier on, so they were able to just kind of keep it consistent. But it always is convincing.
Yeah. No. We talked about that several times about the makeup, and the makeup is always good. You know, and for the most part, other than the green CGI eyeballs, I mean, this film does a pretty decent job with the practical effects as well. There's not as much as we have seen in other ones, especially like the last movie, where you think that may have had the biggest budget for the last movie because
Yeah.
they went all out in that one. Um, but I was perfectly fine with this movie. It the thing is, these movies, yeah, like I said, they appeal to a specific audience. They really do. General horror fans probably look down on this entire franchise completely. Uh,
Well, it is a comedy horror, so
yeah,
a lot of people, a lot of like people who will like scary horror movies don't like comedy horror, and they don't like that much. You know, some movies kind of are able to walk that line. Like Scream is able to walk the line, comedy horror without it being comedy considered a comedy. I think people who like horror movies a lot of times will still like Scream, but a lot of times they won't like a comedy horror movie because they're just like, this is stupid. Why am I
yeah.
watching this?
No, I agree with you. I've talked with several of us horror fans out there who have said the same thing. There's some people out there who don't even consider comedy horror worthy of mentioning if it's a more comedy than horror. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
or like the people who would not consider something like Beetlejuice a horror film. It's a comedy horror, in my
Yeah.
opinion, which is
I think
why
yeah.
we would do it for our podcast.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's got some horror elements.
yeah,
But a movie like the Sheep movie, the Black Sheep movie
yeah,
is comedy horror. That movie's really awesome, by the way. I
that movie is
watched it again
great.
recently, but it's the one that's a lot better movie than I remembered it. That's really well done, but it has leans a lot towards comedy and like
Mhm.
and some people, it may turn people off. I think it may, especially like after about 20 minutes of seeing something being really goofy, they may not be involved too much with the plot. It might be enough that they think it's a little funny, but then after a certain amount of time, they're like, I can't take this serious.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree with you. Black Sheep is a great film to bring up in terms of that. I'm also going to add Grabbers to that too, because the concept of you not being taken
Yeah.
over because you're drunk and you have to stay drunk in order not to be taken over by the aliens is just fucking hilarious as shit. But yeah,
Yeah.
those type of movies who can embrace the comedy with the horror aspects. There are a lot of people out there who just don't like that. And this movie and this franchise is fucking just silly. It's
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to, like we've discussed in the last few of these. They don't always need to make a whole lot of sense. They break their own rules and create new rules every film. And the only connective tissue really is Warwick Davis. For these first six movies in this franchise. So
It's pretty funny when they actually go to the trouble to make the rules up. An hour and 15 minutes in to this movie, suddenly they just drop like a bunch of rules on you, and it's just like, no, no, not really. But
oh Jesus. Yeah, and the thing is, like I said, I've only seen this movie twice now, and I was 100% not in the mood when I originally saw this in whenever I saw it. I don't know when Origins came out, but I saw it around that time. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah, same way. I wasn't in the mood the first time I watched it. I don't know why. Because again, when I was watching it this time, especially the beginning of this movie, is really awesome. I was like, I could, especially that 1970s scene, and
yeah, You know what, I think the reason why we don't get it, why we didn't get it like the very first time, is we just weren't in the mood for this type of movie.
Yeah.
Um, I 100%, no, I wasn't. I just watched Origins, and I finally caught up
Yeah.
with these two, this one and Back to the Hood. I know I wasn't in the fucking right
Yeah.
mindset.
Origins tried to make it a scary horror movie.
Yeah,
That what most people who don't like comedy horror want to see, but it almost made it generic by doing that. It took all the identity away from the franchise.
yes, I liked Origins, but it was very much more straightforward because it tried so hard to be more of a serious horror film.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
and
mean,
so hopefully,
it can be scary. The Leprechaun, if I mean, it's presented the right way, it can be scary. But it'd be nice to balance it. If you could balance the horror comedy in a way, so you have to make the rules stick,
yeah,
and you have to, and you can still have the comedy, but things have to matter in the film more.
yeah. Well, and they tried their best with the first movie. Remember, they tried the first movie feels like a horror film with
Yeah,
comedy in it.
yeah, it is more. But that one, yeah, that
They
one's
set
probably
rules.
yeah, that one's probably the best one, and it does take. I mean, that one does take the rules serious, and it does have the comedy parts, but that one does feel like almost like a PG or PG-13 film because of the way the characters are, which isn't a bad thing, because it could be something like I'm trying to think of something else similar to it, like I'm thinking Goonies or something like that, but something that's because the characters are do for the most part survive that one, and they're all family, so there's
Mm,
no which they could have done. What happens here, and it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth once the stray bullet gets killed, and especially even worse once Butch gets killed.
mm, yeah, yeah. So, all right, Dave. Are there any other thoughts that you have on this film?
No, I don't. I think we went over it pretty good.
We seem to be doing you guys a service here at Conversations of Horror when we discuss these Leprechaun movies for St. Patty's Day. We go through them extremely well so that if you don't feel like you need to go out and watch the movie, you've at least watched it through our eyes by listening to our podcast. So,
Well,
with that,
yeah, I would think though it would be better to watch it and then listen to what we had to say about it, because then you're like, oh yeah, yeah, now it makes sense. He was what he was doing with him up in the room, you know?
well, that's where I like. Well, that's why we implore people to go watch the movie first before listening to us. But there are some people out there who probably have no idea or clue about ever watching Leprechaun in the Hood. They may have not even watched any of the anything past the first movie if they've seen the first movie. But it's St. Patrick's Day, so you should enjoy our conversation, whether it's about a movie you have seen or a movie you probably will never see. So, uh, with that, Dave, I do want to thank you for joining us on this program in which we talked about Leprechaun in the Hood from 2000. For everyone else listening out here, what we love to do is we love to rate the movie. We like to rate it from 1 to 5, 1 being 4, 5 being amazing. But what we like to do is we like to attribute that rating to a particular object, quote, or saying within the film. So, Dave, what rating and what quote, object, or saying would you attribute to this film?
So I'm gonna have to go with the magic flute for this. Um, and I'm gonna give this movie some goodwill. This is a tough one because Warwick Davis returning again is amazing. Ice-T is amazing. I like the three leads. Very good chemistry between them. I think the first half of this movie is really great. It gets really bizarre in the second half, which there's something to be said about that. But I'm going to land it at a 2.5 star.
Okay. Uh, you know what? I'm surprised you did that because I was going to do the same thing. I was going to do it 2.5 Leprechaun raps. Leprechaun in the Hood gonna do no good.
Yeah.
Uh, the thing is for me, now that I've watched it a second time and I was more in the mood for it, the one thing about doing these episodes, this podcast on this franchise, as slow as we are doing it, which is only like 2 each year, is the fact that I get to watch these films and actually dissect them and give them another chance that I didn't years ago. And this film, now that I am fully aware and grasp the concept of the comedy horror where anything goes, I'm fine with it. I can enjoy this movie. I like everything that you've already said, but for me, the Leprechaun rap throws it a little bit over for me. Dude, that's the one thing I remember the original time I saw it. It's the one thing that I'm always going to take away from this damn movie is the Leprechaun rap, because watching Warwick Davis rap as a leprechaun is just priceless.
Yeah,
it's priceless.
It is great. It is great. Yeah.
It's priceless. So with that, I hope you all have enjoyed listening to us talk about this film, Leprechaun in the Hood. And I hope that you have enjoyed our other podcast in regards to Leprechaun 4 in space. And please make sure to check out our previous episodes on the 3 previous Leprechaun movies, because you will have a blast listening to those, especially if you are listening to them on this fine St. Patrick's Day. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we hope that you like, follow, share, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And please make sure to check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves into the amazing filmography from Hammer Studios in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you like classic horror films, you're going to enjoy us talk about those classic horror films there. From all of us, please have a great day, and we hope that you have a pleasant St. Patty's Day until next year, when we do Leprechaun Back in the Hood. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production. Written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Executive producer, Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.